Welcome to The Third Chair, a show about real people, real stories, real life. And here are your hosts for The Third Chair, Peter Grigg and Doug Bazeski.
So, Doug, we've brought on another guest who has
It's a good thing we're bringing on a guest because I'm sitting here.
Yeah, ready to film. Who has quite a skill set and wears a number of different hats. He's
At the same time?
At the same time, and he's going to demonstrate some tonight. He's a musician.
Whoa.
He's sort of an electronic technical nerd. He manages a sober living home, so we'll talk about that. He works at the Springs Rescue Mission and is going to tell us all the wonderful things that the Springs Rescue Mission does for the city of Colorado Springs. And so I'm very excited to bring on Jayme Singleton.
I'm excited now, too. Welcome to The Third Chair, where Peter's having a good time. We don't know why.
I'm laughing at your shirt.
No.
It's better than my shirt. Yeah.
Well, of course. And we welcome our poor guest because he has to sit between the two of us, Jayme Singleton.
Yes.
Yes, and I heard you like music, and you're a musician, and then you help musicians play by doing the keyboards in the back. But what kinds of music do you like? What genres?
Well, it started out stuff, if I had to name a group in the 70s, so keyboards are my thing. I love synthesizers and keyboards. So a lot of my influences would have been Yes, Pink Floyd, Moody Blues, anything along those lines where they were real keyboard heavy. I was fascinated by keyboards ever since my first time I saw one. I just love it. Of course, piano was where I kind of learned most of the
basics.
Yeah, my parents weren't going to buy me a synthesizer. Like, you need to learn piano. But I'm pretty eclectic in my taste for music. I like almost everything. I have a couple that I don't, and I won't say them in a recording here so it doesn't offend anybody. But mostly pretty much all kinds of music, as long as it's instrumental heavy, a little less singing, a lot more music. In fact, I pretty much really love stuff that doesn't have singing at all, which is primarily why I don't sing that, and I don't really have a very good range in my...
Does jazz music typically have keyboard heavy, or is it more like piano heavy, or sometimes?
Piano heavy, some really good horn, some brass work in there. Very, and that's what, if you were going to pick an example of nothing but instruments, that would be definitely one of them.
That or Beethoven.
Oh, yeah. So it's odd, is I hated the piano lessons. I absolutely couldn't stand them. They were horrible. You had to do stuff that they wanted you to do, and you had to do it the way they wanted you to do it, and that's never been good with me. Don't look at your hands. Play this music exactly as it's written.
So that's why you play a lot of jazz?
Oh, I just played whatever I want. I never did outgrow that. You know what I mean? So,
because you're going to play for us during the break, and we heard you. Basically... Were you just playing combinations of songs, or what?
This is like left hand, right hand. Left hand is the trained, the good student that does, what they're supposed to do, gets the A's in school, and the right hand is a rambunctious teenager. So I'll play, and my left hand has kind of plings it knows it's going to do, and there's some structure, and the right hand just goes and does whatever the heck it wants, and hopefully they kind of mesh together at some point.
Wow.
So do you compose songs at all, or you?
Yeah, I have a full recording studio at the place I stay at right now. So I'm teaching myself how to record with using DAW audio softwares, things like that. Whereas before I just recorded
DAW
digital audio workstations. So it's what everybody uses nowadays. I used to love CDs.
I've been using that for years. Yeah.
I used to love tapes. They were more fun. You just hit record and go. Now you got to do all this technical stuff, but
sure,
it also opens up a whole platform of different things that you can do. So I'm self-teaching myself that, and doing some, a lot of YouTube cheating kind of stuff, and watching other people do it. In fact, I'm involved with somebody at our church that does a lot of that, so I'm learning a lot of stuff from him.
Are you making like any beats for rappers?
I don't. That's one of the genres that I don't particularly like. But what I'm trying to do is learn more of the, I guess you could say, the techno stuff, where it's
Like the rave techno
yeah,
stuff?
because that's got a lot
Electric
of beat.
wave, yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah. So
man,
that's kind of
yeah.
fun. It has a lot of keyboards and a lot of a lot of that electronic stuff. So
Yeah, a lot of
that's
people,
appealing to
a lot
me.
of people dropping ecstasy too. I know, not in this room. Yeah.
In pre-production, you mentioned you wanted to fuse classical with techno
Techno,
dance.
yeah.
So can you tell us what that's about?
You'll probably see that in some of the music I play. It wasn't techno, but meshing classical into some other, like merging synthesizer type music with classical piano. They sound really neat with each other. They're so different.
Mm-hmm.
They complement each other. So I wouldn't be the only one that's done the whole fusing classical with techno. There's somebody by the name of Lindsay that plays the cello. She does a fantastic job of doing that. But still, it's a relatively new thing. So
Lindsay that plays the cello.
she plays the cello.
Is this like on YouTube? Or
No,
like
she's
at,
world
locally?
famous. No,
Oh,
she's on the main line.
Oh, wow.
And she does classical cello with all that techno stuff. It's all popular. She's
Well, I
really
can see that because your first song, part of what you're going to play during the break, it seemed like it seems kind of classical, and then you had some. I know you had some techno. There, and it sounded really good.
Do you know Lindsay personally?
No, I wouldn't.
I was
love
going to
to.
say, can you get her on the show? As
Oh
a
my
guest?
God! Yeah, probably would have a hard time booking that one.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Wait,
Now,
because we
50,000, 100,000.
Yeah, because we pay so much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If we pay a little extra and see if we could go out to dinner too,
Yeah.
She's quite nice looking. So.
Yeah, my goodness, yes.
But classical is the basis for all music, so and I can't seem to get away from it. I was trained, piano lessons, so might as well use it and bring it into today's environment so that it's applicable.
So when you're alone in the music room and you're working on something and just playing, does that kind of help you relax and get away from it all when you had a stressful day?
It's my teleportation out of reality, pretty much. I just turn it on, put the headphones on, and let it rip. And I record so that if something good comes out, I got a copy of it, right? It's very unorganized the way I do stuff, but thanks to the easy...
A lot of musicians do that, though.
Yeah.
I mean, I saw a documentary where Jimmy Page, the lead guitarist of Led Zeppelin, would just play into recording. He'd just play for hours and then decide later whether it was good or not.
Listen to it and you're like, hey, I like that.
Yeah, or I don't like
And
that.
the neat thing about with the new technology is instead of having to roll tape and actually literally cut tape like they used to,
Yeah.
I can just, click, oh, I like that, I don't like that part, and, chop it up.
Yeah.
But what it does do is it gives me ideas for what I will formulate some organization, to my, and then when I'm actually going to record, quote unquote, a song, it is a lot more structured and organized. But mostly I just turn them on and see what happens, just let it rip. So it's very relaxing. I can go down there and turn it on and hours could go by and I wouldn't even realize it, be like, oh wow, I probably should eat or something, So yeah, it's definitely, it's my new escape as opposed to the way I used to escape. So yeah.
Which we find out about later in the show.
Yeah. Did you, were you ever a fan of like the Doors or Deep Purple? They incorporated a lot of keyboards, and if I understand right, the Doors didn't even have a bass guitarist.
No.
The keyboardist played the bass lines,
Yeah.
either with the good schoolboy hand or
he actually he played a real organ and he used the bass on the floor.
so he used the bass on the floor.
So that's amazing because you're doing two completely separate things simultaneously. That's
and then
impressive.
Geddy Lee of Rush, he'll be like playing bass guitar and then adding in some synthesizer with his feet and his hands. Yeah.
And I did a little foot action in my music, the dueling sustain pedal, so that when I hit one keyboard and I can leave it and play something else, that one fades in slowly. That's because I have two different pedals down there. And so I hit it, and then that way I can leave that keyboard, and then, hey, how'd that fade in? His hands aren't even on it, So a little bit of footwork.
So for all us music experts, a sustain pedal, is that like when you play a note and you hit the sustain pedal, like the note just keeps going?
There. Yeah.
Is the sustain set for a length of time?
It's either infinite or you can have a decay, or basically it kind of like it stays and it kind of fades out, and that's all done. You have to pre-program that on the keyboards. With a piano, it's called a damper pedal, and it will stay as long as the strings are still resonating, right? But you also have another pedal that you can hit to make it fade out. So very manual and mechanical by nature, but with keyboards it's a little more, there's a little more programming and stuff involved, but generally the way I have it set is to hold until I let off the pedal.
Cool.
I understand you played for Big Tips in the World Trade Center in Portland.
It's an interesting story, actually. But yeah, I had a nice, interesting job. I was only 17. And
still in high school.
Yeah, I'm not even old enough to be in the lounge, And,
yeah, I was gonna say, don't you have to be 21 to get in there?
Yeah, so
something.
Well, North Dakota, I know for sure because I was a busboy, and sometimes we had to go wash glasses in the bar. But I looked it up, and you could be in the bar as long as you didn't drink.
Right, as long as there was, my parents had to sign something. I think there was something involved, but I actually got paid an hourly wage too. It wasn't very impressive, but and then well, they got to pay you something. But it was oddly enough, it was fun for one, and then the tips did turn out to be quite large. It was I think there was kind of a novelty. You got this young kid in there playing, and they're kind of like, wow, what's going on here? And especially the ladies, I got the excellent tips for the ladies.
Wow.
Yeah, I was like 17 and all these 30-year-olds are hitting on me. I was like, oh my God, what am I supposed to do with that? But it was good. Now I look back on it and I'm like, oh, whoops. I should have whoops.
Missed opportunities.
Yeah.
Maybe that's for the better in the long run.
And that was during the yuppie era, right? So
sure.
they were rich and they'd get a couple glasses of wine in them and tips were flying. So it was fun.
Sure.
I was a puppy, a poor urban.
Oh, yeah.
Well, we're going to come back, and then when you come back, you're going to be playing for us and the audience, and it's going to be really good.
A blend of classical and techno.
Pink
live on the third chair.
Which is pre-recorded.
A year ago. Welcome back to the third chair and our special guest, Jayme Singleton.
Thank you very
Jayme,
much.
that was fantastic playing. I really enjoyed that. I liked the blend and the fusion of. I could hear some classical in there. I could hear some techno rave kind of sounds in there. Very good.
Well, thank you.
Very good.
I enjoyed that.
And as we also mentioned in the introduction, you wear many hats. You're a musician. You're kind of an electronic, technical nerd. I don't know if that's the right word. You do a lot of stuff either in a control booth at church, and you've done the electronics for different kinds of things like alarm systems and that. You manage a sober living home.
That's great.
And you have given us permission to ask you some questions about your journey with respect to alcoholism. Is that right?
For sure.
I cannot help but notice you're wearing a Recovery Works I'm Living Proof. That's sort of a giveaway that maybe you have a story to tell.
It's definitely a conversation starter.
It is a conversation
this
starter.
shirt, if I don't feel like talking to people, don't wear this shirt.
Yeah.
It generates conversations.
Because people are going to want to talk to you, right?
Yeah, that's right.
People are like, what does that mean? Or the people that are in recovery go, I like your shirt. So
Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
That was my first thought. Like, right on, man. Yeah, I'm in long-term
But
recovery
that
as
is
well.
neat. So I mean, it's a good message.
Now, I know you've got a lot of things you could say, so I'm going to try and ask some focus questions that you can elaborate on and add in your story as you see fit.
Sounds
So
good.
we're talking, and at one point you told me that you were praying to God to help you with this problem, the alcohol use disorder, and you don't know what happened, and you woke up with a leg injury, and you ended up in jail for a year. Okay,
how's that for an answer?
How's that for an answer to prayer? You got to talk about that a little bit, because that's
Okay,
I don't know if I'd be happy if God answered my prayer that way, but go ahead, yeah.
Hey, you got to watch what you ask for.
Go,
Essentially, yeah, he did exactly what I asked. I just probably should have tailored it a different way, I suppose. But that was almost
I think God
immediate.
does have a sense of humor.
I'm going to say he
that's
does.
Proof.
I'm a special case, I think. But so that's late in the stages of the alcohol story.
So how many years
Wow.
before that?
Well, and it's not just alcohol. It was drugs and alcohol. But
It was drugs and alcohol too.
alcohol tended to be the tail end of my experience, and actually, believe it or not, the worst of them all. Really.
Yeah, I believe it.
I was very sick. I had lost my place to live. I had already been to a couple programs, but I wasn't committed to really stopping. I was trying to just have less catastrophic things going on in my life. And the more I tried, the worse it got. It was weird. But anyway, so that story that you were referring to, I was in this place called Alameda, California, which is, they call it an island. Technically, it's a peninsula, but for the sake of argument, it's an island. And I was staying with my ex-girlfriend because I had lost my place to live. And I had gotten a DUI and I needed to go to court. So I needed a home base to stay for a little bit until I figured some things out. Well, figuring things out and drinking just don't seem to work well together. So
Yeah.
I was drinking, naturally. And I was at that point where I couldn't ease pain with drinking. It was creating more pain. I was getting sick. It was horrible. So the whole entire island has a riverfront park going around it. And it's right across the street from Oakland naval bases and stuff like that. So it's very, very water heavy all around. And so I'm standing there. It's February. It's not really that cold, but it can get cold at night. I'm standing at the edge of the water, and I'm looking at the peaks and valleys of the small waves, and the sun's glistening off it. And I got a bottle in my hand, and I'm just literally like, oh my God, this has got to be the worst thing that could possibly be happening. This isn't helping. So I literally looked up in the sky, and it's the one and only time I've ever really actually asked God for help. I mean, in that sense, literally, please help me. I can't stop drinking. I'm going to die. Boom, blacked out immediately. That's the last thing I remember doing. Woke up, it was nighttime. I think I was down there around 2:30, and it was night. And the only reason I woke up is because one of them stinker clouds that came and rained on me.
Oh.
So I woke up because I was wet and cold. And I'm confused for a minute. I'm like, wait, where am I? And I went to go stand, and my leg didn't work, my foot. And it was dark, and they had those kind of lights every so far. There were those sodium yellow lights.
Yeah.
So everything looks the same color. So I noticed that something was wet on my pant leg, and I'm like, I don't understand what's going on. And then it was sticky, and I'm thinking, huh?
Ooh.
And so I tried to walk, and I couldn't walk on it. It was like, I don't know if it was like a fracture compound or what was going on. I had no clue. Luckily, I couldn't really feel it. I guess I had so much alcohol in my system that it worked as an anesthetic or whatever.
Yeah.
So I found a stick, and I hobbled out of there. And I went back to the girl's house, and she was freaking out, and the cops were there and everything because, he must have drowned, something like that. And anyway, so go to the hospital. They sew it all back up. It was a compound fracture and torn ligaments. I literally almost lost my foot. So I went to court 4 days later with this big giant boot on, and I got remanded for something that I didn't even know I had done in my previous tirade of stuff, right? And I ended up in jail for a year. Fighting that case. And it was interesting because if you remember the prayer, God help me, I can't stop drinking. Well, guess what? He hobbled me and he put me in a place where I couldn't get away for a while, right?
Yeah, but you still got 3 hots and a cot.
That's right. That's right. He's like, well,
yeah, still taking care of you.
Given your track record, I'm going to have to put you somewhere because you will escape and stuff. So
yeah, man.
But it worked. I mean, because it was the beginning of the starting of my self-realization. I had a lot of time to think that, okay, so now we understand what's going on. I didn't stop there. I mean, I went on to do more stuff afterwards, but at least it gave me a glimpse of some form of answer, some form of spirituality that actually did work. I was mad at first. I'm like, what? But after I looked at it, I was like, okay, you know what? He answered my prayers exactly in the fashion in which I asked.
Well, a lot of these kinds of experiences build before we reach the point where we can do it and actually really be totally committed to being sober. So 15 months ago or so, you went through DTs, which is delirium tremens, which can also kill you. I bet that wasn't fun. What do you remember about that?
I remember that it wasn't the first time I've gone through it.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, every time I decide to quit and I go through terrible withdrawals. So delirium tremens, severe tremors. I mean, you can't even hold on to a cup to drink coffee. On the verge of having seizures almost the entire time I'm detoxing.
Did you have seizures?
I did several times.
Oh my goodness.
Grand malls, or the closest you can have a grand mal without being not having epilepsy.
Okay.
Really bad, just horrible pains, cramps. Can't eat, can't sleep, shakes, hot, cold. You've probably seen movies where they show that. It is as bad as, if not worse, as they say. I mean, it literally feels like you're going to die. You feel like you're having a heart attack. I would not wish that on anybody, even if I didn't like them. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's like, it's horrible. I mean, you would think that would be enough.
Did you hallucinate with it as well?
Lucky for me, I had some experience with hallucinogens in my history. So when I did hallucinate, it didn't freak me out. I'm like,
yourself.
I'm not surprised.
There's a lizard crawling across the wall.
I like the mushrooms, the LSD, the techno stuff. Yeah.
So it didn't freak me out. I was just like, okay, that's probably not good.
I'm already feeling pain.
Yeah.
The illusions don't bother me.
And just for the record, 2 Men and a Duck Entertainment and the Third Chair do not officially endorse the use of hallucinogens. Okay.
Neither do I.
Yeah, I know you didn't.
Not anymore.
This is why you should stay away because of what happened.
Now, I know you now are quite involved helping others with recovery. But sometimes when we help others, we can burn out and get ourselves into trouble. And you were sharing a little bit of how that happened to you. You were helping other people with their investing in them and that effort, where perhaps you, looking back, you neglected yourself during that time. Is that a danger for people helping others in recovery?
I would say for sure. Self-care has to be first. I like to put it like, if you have 2 people in a boat, and one can swim sort of ish, and the other guy can't swim at all. The one guy who can't swim at all falls overboard. Well, if the guy that can only swim a little bit jumps in after him, they're both going to drown.
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't know how to swim, meaning if I'm not well and I don't have my recovery program it's solid, not only I'm doing a disservice to anybody I could help, but I'm also very, very in jeopardy of doing something to having a fall myself, because you gotta be well. And the whole helping others can give you burnout. You can get recovery burnout. It's like I'm spending so much time trying to help somebody else with their issues and problems that I neglect doing it for myself. And so you get to the point where you just don't want to even hear recovery. Kind of like a chef probably doesn't go home and cook, right? He's been doing it all day, 12, 13 hours.
Swanson.
Yeah, exactly. So you got to be real careful.
Probably gets enough food probably during the day.
Yeah.
Just don't get the save the world but don't save myself, thing going on.
Sure. You can't, in order to pour your life out, you have to be filled up yourself.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
So when we come back, we're going to ask the question. There is a term that is thrown around in recovery: stop driving the bus. And when we come back from our break, we're going to have you expound on what the heck does that mean. I'm pretty sure it doesn't mean don't take a job as a bus driver, when we come right back. Hi, I'm Dr. Peter Grigg, a life and recovery coach with Pikes Peak Recovery Coaching. I've had the pleasure and privilege of helping people for over 25 years. I want to hear your story, support and encourage you while we partner together to help you reach your goals. I can help you. I am certain I can help you. I can be your guide, role model, resource person, and help you get results. What's my coaching frameworks? I'm an eclectic coach drawing from a variety of disciplines and frameworks with evidence-based proven methods. What would you like to work on? Some popular areas are goal setting and attainment, building and maintaining motivation, finding purpose, personal development, recovery from drug and alcohol addiction problems, health and wellness, life planning, athletic and creative artist performance enhancement, maybe something else. Just ask me. I would love to help you. You can find my services on Fiverr.com. Welcome back to the third chair with our special guest, Jayme Singleton. Jayme, thanks for being here. And when we left off at the last break, we had been talking about some of your journey of recovering and staying sober from alcoholism and other drugs. And we left off with the comment that some people in recovery seem to find very helpful the whole idea of stop driving the bus. So what's the bus and who's the driver and why should we stop?
Right. Or crashing the bus, as it were.
Crashing the bus, yeah.
There's two references for that statement. In AA, spirituality, meaning let God drive the bus. Driving the bus, meaning let Him direct the show. You just go for the ride. You go where it takes you. Also, in addiction and alcoholism, we have a tendency to want to run the universe, run the world, right? I am the creator. Yeah. I can do everything. I can save the world and all that. And how well has that been going for you so far, right? So we let it be. Let others help you. Stop driving the bus basically indicates it's just like shut up, shut your mouth, open your ears, kind of thing. Learn something, take advice. Just don't. You're not in charge of everything, and the universe doesn't revolve around you. So just be a passenger for a change,
Wasn't there some kind of country singer like Jesus Take the Wheel? Or
probably, yeah.
Was it Carrie Underwood? I don't know.
Who knows?
It was,
but yeah. So, for those that are spiritually inclined, let God drive the bus for a change.
Sure.
Follow that plan.
Yeah. I mean, and that doesn't mean that in our everyday life, we don't make plans. If you are applying for a job, you still have to fill out a job application.
Right.
I mean, but I think it's also stop worrying about it so much and see what doors God naturally opens or doors that he naturally closes.
Right.
And relax about that.
And don't be, like I have to be right all the time, Take some insight and some information from those that have known how to do it or are doing it, that kind of thing. We have a tendency to be real bullheaded, I know what I'm doing. Take a look at my track record. Obviously, I wasn't doing that well. So.
Well, I always was taught or read, the idea like you can be right all the time or you can be sober, but it's going to be very difficult to be both.
Right.
And for those of us married guys, you can be happy, you can be right or you can be happy with your wife. Yeah. Yeah, I think there's some wisdom there that kind of crosses over. So, another thought here. You had told me that you or believe have been coached as a recovery coach, that there are many pathways to recovery. Now, I know a lot of people just think, oh, alcoholism, there's only AA. But that's not entirely the case, is it?
And especially not now. Maybe back in 1935, it would have been the only way. That or getting locked up in a sanitarium. But and that is interesting that you bring that up, because I have two different platforms. I have AA and I have recovery coaching, or even sometimes a harm reduction model.
Yes.
Which do not get along with each other. AA is very bent. I know. Obviously, I'm not discounting. AA is a big part of my pathway to recovery. Yeah. But not all by itself. Because there's a tendency to be kind of like stuck in this is the way and the only way.
Right.
And with with all the treatment centers now and all the different science behind addiction, which they didn't really have back when AA was first brought about. Right. Then one of the things I respond to most favorably is what they call cognitive behavior therapy.
Sure.
I'm tangible, scientific reasons. Here's what's going on in your brain and what happens to it when you expose it to drugs or alcohol continuously, and here's what you can do to maybe alleviate some of these behavior patterns. Yeah. That works for me because I'm very, very, as I like the electronics and stuff, things that, A plus B equals C kind of guy, So if I can actually see something, experiment with it, toy with it, and see the results, you're going to get a lot farther with me on that. And that was a real battle for me, because the other side of me is the spiritual and embracing something that you have to have faith in, you can't necessarily see. So when I first went to AA and church and stuff, I had a big problem with stuff that's not tangible. But since then, I'm not really like that. But yeah, so there's, and everything doesn't work for everybody the same way.
No, absolutely not.
So somebody might be 100% spiritually inclined, and AA is great for them solely as their only program. Other people might be completely against spirituality altogether. Well, then the AA platform's not going to work. Then they would respond to, maybe some kind of form of meditation techniques of sorts.
Sure.
The cognitive behavior therapy, whatever that looks like.
There's some new medicines like Vivitrol and other things like that help with cravings and success rates of people getting off. Suboxone for opioid users. Yeah, there's a lot of different new things.
Right, and there's a lot of success stories. The numbers are increasing as far as people succeeding and quitting, and they're not all just going to one place.
That's what I found. And they've tried to call people like dual citizens that go to both Smart Recovery, which is cognitive behavioral therapy mostly, and AA. I've always viewed it as like take the meat and spit out the bones. Take the principles that work the best for you from different programs. For me, I know there's a time where I was telling my woes to a big brown horse named Max on the plains of Colorado, and at that time for my recovery it was good. I'm not going to buy a horse. My children would like me to buy a horse, but I'm not going to buy a horse. But there was a time when that approach was really helpful.
Right.
And then I'm going to do a sort of a follow-up with this, and that is, you'd also told me about that there was a time in your life, and I want to make sure I read this right, that you were caught in a vicious cycle of destruction. you would rebuild, more destruction, more rebuilding, and you just found yourself cycling. And tell us about that, and how did you break that cycle?
That's an interesting questions I should say. So it's been discovered by myself and some of the counselors that I've had over the years that I have a pattern, and this pattern is tied into my drinking. We're not sure which is the chicken or the egg.
Mm-hmm.
Is the self-sabotage what's come first and the drinking facilitates that? Or does the drinking create the self-sabotage? We haven't really figured out exactly which happens first. But they go hand in hand with each other.
Yeah.
So you can almost put it in a cycle of time too. It's like a year pattern. So when I first started to try to get into recovery where I wasn't really committed, and I was just kind of like, well, my wife wants me to quit. Well, my job wants me to quit. So I'm doing all this stuff. And I would everything would go to heck, right? And just blow up, losing my job and losing my wife. I got in trouble with the law. So I got to do something. Okay, I stopped drinking and I'm on the mend. And boy, am I good at building. Wow, I can rebuild all of this destruction in 4 or 5 months. And I'm great when I'm doing that. I'm on fire. I don't drink. Everything's good. I'm inspirational. I got lots of energy. I get to a certain point and I go, okay, we're here. And then here we go again. And then I don't know what happens after that part. I don't know where to go from back to normal, if you want to call it normal. And I think either I'm scared of what's next. It's not familiar to me. I have no idea exactly why this happens, but what will happen is as soon as things get better and I'm stable, I'll throw a wrench in the cog or a cog in the wheel and boom, blow everything all up again and then start all over again. And I like the adventure of trying to rebuild stuff, but I'm getting way too old to go through this cycle anymore. And so what I did to break it is recognize it first. That was the first key.
Sure.
And I didn't do that all by myself, obviously. That was some counselors. Then it was funny because they brought me to my own discovery. They're like, are you a person with statistics and patterns? I'm all, well, yeah. He goes, have you ever applied statistics or patterns to your life? Wait a minute. And there was a 1-year process that I do that upbuild and destroy. Once I became aware of that, I was able to see it for what it was. And that is when my recovery really took a stronghold. I was like, okay,
wow.
Don't be afraid of what's next. Be very aware of when that process is about to begin, because there is a definite points in time where you can see it. I'll start throwing screw that, or I'll find somebody to get upset with. It's usually at a job or something like that. And then I'll get that. They like to refer to it as I won't say the word, but the F-its, F this, F that. And that just sets up the precursor to drinking. And then I can drink because I'm all pissed off at the world now.
Right.
And then we just go through that whole thing all over again.
Wow.
So now when I recognize myself starting to nitpick or starting to develop resentments against people, okay, whoa, time out, guys, stop. This is what's happening. You're starting that cycle again. So recognize it for what it is, put a stop to it, and it's a much easier way to live.
It's interesting that you use the resent word, because that is so powerful a force for experiencing a lot of bad things.
For sure.
You got to deal with resentment. Letting that fester is like letting a big, ugly boil fester on the buttocks of humanity.
That was pretty distinct.
And on that note, we'll be right back.
Welcome back to the third chair. I was debating whether I want to say the fifth segment, but they don't really care, do they?
No,
You guys don't care what segment it is. But Jayme, you've done a lot of counseling work. I mean, because of your addictions, you got involved in counseling other people, and so you're working with people who are hurting and trying to recover. But at the end of the day, what do you do for yourself to help you relax or get away from it, so you don't get too involved?
That's an interesting question because I live at a sober house. I work at the mission. You have to be real careful. The music is definitely there. That's definitely one.
And that's a great thing.
So I go hide in my studio, and whether I'm watching, unwinding, binge watching something on Netflix or whatever, or taking walks. That's one of the big things. Just turn off the technology and walk. And Colorado's great because even though it gets the weather's real temperamental, pretty much you can guarantee that at some point in the day it's not going to be snowing or raining and you can walk, right? And so if my head gets a little too full of stuff, I just take off and go for a walk, and I leave my cell phone at home and I don't tell anybody. I just go, all right, and where's Jayme? But mostly I think the music is one of the biggest things, and then reading some kind of recovery literature, as if I was a new person, not trying to read it so that I can deliver some of that message to somebody else, but more like I'm reading it as if I had never knew any of that.
Trying to learn something
So just
else.
be a recovery, instead of a person that's trying to help others. Try to separate those two things from each other. Because I already experienced that burnout thing one time, and I just said, I'm definitely not going down that road again. And talking to normal people.
Is there anybody
Well,
you know
maybe
that's
not normal, but as we refer
You sure are
to
doing that tonight on this interview.
Yeah, sorry about that.
somebody outside of the recovery world, just like regular, I guess is a better word than normal. But people that we call them normies in AA, it's people that don't have issues with addiction or whatever, and just having a regular, casual conversation that has nothing to do with alcohol recovery or otherwise. So I would like to say I exercise and climb mountains and do all that stuff, but obviously I'd be lying if I said that. I aspire to do all those things, but
Walking is type of it, because I walk.
yeah.
I like to walk outside also.
I like to walk to my car.
Yeah. Not if it's upstairs.
Yes, I've driven several marathons.
Right. There you go.
Do you have any numbers or
Contact info?
contact info
Absolutely.
that you want to leave people?
Absolutely. I would certainly, if anybody would like to talk about recovery or if there's any musicians out there that want to get together, I could be reached at. Just recite the number out.
You wanna?
Yeah, you go ahead.
We're gonna put it on the bottom, but if you want to recite.
Oh,
it,
yeah. So, yeah, absolutely call me if anybody, if you want to connect. Absolutely. My personal cell phone is also the phone I use for business. So you can get me at 719-717-1524.
Right. Is there an email address?
There is, but it's long. I'll just have you put that on the bottom of the screen. So,
Yeah, okay. We'll just
yeah.
put the
So
bottom.
you read the bottom of the screen.
Yeah.
Read the bottom of the screen.
Yeah, we know the people watch the third chair are very educated and definitely can read the bottom.
Read the
of
bottom.
screen.
Follow the bouncy
Two things at once.
Oh man, I remember those Disney cartoons from the 1960s.
Where they had the bouncy ball.
The bouncy ball, yeah.
Did you ever notice that it went in exact synchronicity to the music?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was
that's pretty
very cool.
Love Looney Tunes. That was great.
Yeah.
There you go. That's what I do to relax. I watch Looney Tunes and goofy stuff.
Yeah.
Hey, those are fun.
Yeah. The old 80s shows. Like Magnum PI. You know?
Oh man, that's going way back.
Yeah. I love the hair. I'd grow a mullet, but it would look weird with gray hair.
Oh man.
Too fun.
Well, is that a wrap for tonight's show, Doug?
It sounds like it.
So thank you for joining us. We'll be back next week with Jayme. We have a few more questions we'd like to ask him and some insights we'd like to get. So in the meantime, please don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and share the episode with your friends, which I found out means that like when you hit the share button, it may like have you then like hit your Twitter or an email. See, I'm sort of a dinosaur with technology. Thank you. We'll see you next week, and good night.
This has been The Third Chair. Want to be a guest? Want to sponsor our show? Send us an email. Please subscribe to our channel and follow us on social media.